So, what happens when the leaders become completely out of touch with the people that they lead? The authority always returns to the people. And I'm going to get into explaining why. Every system starts breaking the same way, and that's that people making decisions stop living with the consequences of those decisions. And when the gap grows wide enough, authority doesn't disappear, it shifts back to the people who actually keep things running. And I think right now, with what we're dealing with in America, especially, and what's happening before our eyes with billionaire tech oligarchs and the current administration and immigration policies and everything that we're witnessing, what we're watching happen is that decision making from our leaders is completely out of touch with the people that they lead. Completely out of touch. And I know a lot of people say, well, right now the current people that are in charge, 77 million people or 75 million or whatever it was, wanted this. But that may be true, but according to all polls at this point, they're completely underwater. And there's only a small subsection of people that really, really root for the cruelty that we're witnessing. And the metric that I use to gauge that number is how many people have an account on Truth Social, which is like 2.4 million people. If that many people were really in support of this movement, they would have 20, 30, 50 million people on that platform. And they don't. They don't. And let alone how many people have an account on Truth Social that are like a media personality. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what we're seeing with the Supreme Court, with everything that's taking place, is that decision-making breaks the moment consequences disappear. So if the leaders who are making these decisions no longer feel the outcomes, then the decisions are theoretical. People are just statistics. They really can care less about the actual outcome. So trade-offs they stop feeling real. And raising costs on the average person, or raising costs on families, if you're sitting on $30 million, you don't care. And a lot of these people who are making decisions politically across the board, both parties, no political stuff here. I'm just saying that our leaders in every position are so wealthy and come from so much wealth and are in positions where they were educated at elite schools that nobody else could pay for, and so on and so forth, that they're so far removed from ordinary people that they just don't realize in any way what the consequences are of the decisions they're making. And they'll mandate rules onto people that they don't have to live under themselves. They'll cut support for programs that they don't need themselves, that millions of people probably do. And the farther you are from the consequences, the worse your decision-making gets. You know, my mother used to always say to me, never take advice from anybody that doesn't have to suffer the consequences. It's one of my favorite things that she used to say to me. And it really doesn't get more realer than that. Out of touch leadership optimizes for appearance, not reality. So they're more concerned about how things look. It's optics. And so instead of thinking about good judgment, what will actually affect people in a positive way, change lives in a positive way, they become more concerned with the messaging, the optics, the talking points, the justifications. And reality doesn't care how it sounds. It only responds to what works. And when leaders stop solving problems, they become perception managers. Their job is no longer to solve problems. Their job is to manage how things look. And that's never good. So you have people who are totally out of touch with how ordinary people think, feel, what our lives are like, how ordinary people manage throughout the day. And they're making these decisions that they don't have to suffer the consequences of. And then their sole job is, whether this is good or whether this is bad doesn't matter. Let's just manage the perception. Let's just use PR. Let's get some publicists to push narratives. Control how people perceive things rather than the reality they're living in, which is gaslighting. It's the ultimate gaslighting. So you have people going, man, you know, it's like, I feel like groceries are way more expensive. I feel like it's harder to survive. I'm not eating as well. I'm not sleeping as well. I'm stressing every month about how I'm going to get by. But then you're being told all the time by the people who are managing perception, everything is fine. The economy is great. Your life is wonderful. You're doing better than you've ever done. And it's such good gaslighting. It literally has people questioning themselves like, I haven't been eating right, but I'm doing better than I've ever done. But I'm struggling to pay my bills, but I'm doing better than I've ever done. But I have so much, I'm struggling to make money and it feels like everything's too expensive, but I'm doing better than I've ever done. And this is what happens when you have leaders who don't suffer the consequences of their decisions and they're completely out of touch with the people that they lead. And these systems that we live in, broken systems respond by adding control, not understanding. So when things don't work, leaders just add rules. They just add layers, more and more stuff, more complexity. Oh, well, you know, let's just, you know, instead of fixing things, let's just keep adding more rules. Let's just keep adding more rules. And the confusion that it creates, the frustration that it creates with people, you know, the people who follow the rules start to lose faith in following the rules. Bear with me. I want you to follow what I'm saying here. So when these leaders who don't suffer the consequences, who are totally out of touch with the people that they lead, when they continue to make bad decisions and then just manage perception, part of managing that perception is not fixing things, but creating more rules and more layers. And this is where things start to happen. Because then the people who are getting confused by this, getting annoyed by this, start to lose faith in following the rules. And complex rules are often just a substitute for understanding the real problem. And What they don't understand, these leaders, is that true authority requires the people's participation. It requires our participation. People who have power can only have power if you secede it. They can only have power if you secede it. It requires your participation. Laws don't function just being written on paper. Systems don't run just on policies that are written on documents. People who have titles, they don't have power because they have titles. That doesn't create the obedience to that title. It requires our participation. We have to secede that power. We have to let them know they have power over us. We have to participate in allowing them to have authority over us. So that requires people to show up, people to comply, people to cooperate. Authority doesn't come from force. It comes from participation. It always has. Power comes from force, but authority comes from participation. Understand that. So institutions that govern our system, they don't own legitimacy. They borrow it. It's borrowed from us. But they rely on our trust in them, our belief in them, and are willing to cooperate. And when that fades, the enforcement weakens. Rules start to feel arbitrary, and people start to stop complying. And the moment people stop believing in a system, its power becomes performative. Their power no longer exists. Their authority no longer exists. Either. Because people, the people, us, have chosen to stop participating. And that is why the one institution that will always keep democracies in place, will always keep I don't want to use that word. I'll just say democracies in place. The institution that keeps it and gives it that consistency and longevity is us. The people are the institution. That is the institution. So, one thing that power does is it tightens right when it's about to lose its grip. And it's a natural response. If you were holding a stick in your hand and you were walking around and you started to feel like it was sliding out of your hand, your instinct would be to tighten. Power does the same thing. So when they start to see that people are not compliant, then control increases. They start to throw their weight around and their power around. The messaging intensifies. They start to demand loyalty rather than rely on your own participation. It's counterintuitive, but it's true. And that signals fear, not strength. When you have people that are trying to force your loyalty, when you have people that are trying to force your compliance, those are people that are not strong. Those are people that are very afraid. Very afraid. And real authority doesn't need to shout. It's obeyed quietly. We just choose to participate. So where does the authority come from? Us. Now, you might say, well, yeah, but the people who hold, the systems together aren't the ones in charge. That's true. The people that hold the system together are not the ones in charge. That's a very accurate statement. The people who hold it together are the workers. They are the parents, families, builders, the caregivers, professionals. What they all have in common is that they don't set the policies. No, they don't set them, but nothing functions without them. Nothing. So the people with the least amount of power actually are the ones who carry the most responsibility. And the reason why is because strength in numbers. The people who don't have any power, but are the people that keep the system going, they have a gigantic responsibility, and that is to stop participating and ignore demands of loyalty when they need to. And that's when the power dynamic shifts. That's when the leaders who are in charge, that's when they no longer have any authority. And the people steal it. Well, I wouldn't even say steal it. I would say that the people have always had it. I think it's more that the people who are leaders start to realize where the true authority lies, because it's not with them. Because if people decide to get up one day and they decide to be non-compliant and do their jobs slower, or just disengage entirely and just stop caring at all, it isn't rebellion. It's just reality asserting itself. And the most powerful act isn't to resist, it's to withdraw. I want to say this again because I really hope that people are listening to me right now. Your authority does not come from your resistance. It comes from your withdrawal. Stop participating. Stop participating in a system that doesn't give a fuck about you. Stop participating in a system that is led by people who are out of touch with your needs and who just control messaging and just layer rules on top of rules because they have no way to fix or solve a problem. Stop participating in that system. Withdraw. So this idea of resist, no. Withdraw. Withdraw. And if you withdraw, you will send a message to every leader. You will remind every leader who really has the authority by your lack of participation. Requires no effort. How amazing is that? I know the new gen, especially, everybody loves to be able to somehow become rich with no effort, become powerful with no effort, be able to have the house you've always wanted to with no effort, have 1 million followers online with no effort. You just want the easy route. You want a promotion at work with no effort. Well, I got news for you. This is right up your alley because you literally can dethrone every leader around the world globally in a nanosecond with no effort. With zero effort. Because that's what it takes. It takes withdrawal. It takes zero effort. History always resolves the same way. We've seen it time and time again. Empires, corporations, governments, institutions, they all only last as long as the people choose to participate and uphold them. Every system is temporary, but people are permanent. As long as we keep on banging and keep on squirting out more babies, we're not going anywhere. People are permanent. Systems are just, oh, this is a cool system. We'll participate as long as things are fair. But when things stop being fair, when certain individuals start to get so much money and so much power and so much control over that system, and they become completely out of touch with ordinary folks who they lead, and they have no consequences, they're able to pay and thwart their money and power to avoid all responsibility and accountability and consequences for everything that they do. The system no longer serves the vast majority of the people who participate. And the way that you stop that is to withdraw. And when that happens, and it always does, when the corporate ladders disappear, when they're no longer even a factor, when leaders become disconnected from real life, systems, they don't end right away, you know? But there'll be a slow erosion. They will erode slowly. And until participation completely fades at catastrophic levels, then what you're witnessing, which is a power grab, will continue to keep happening. But when you stop participating, you will return true authority back to its rightful owners. You will show and remind the leaders who's really in charge and who's been in charge the entire time. Because if authority ultimately belongs to the people, then what happens when the people decide that a system no longer deserves their participation? I really want you guys to really think about what I said. You don't have to go out and hold up signs. You don't have to go and attack anyone or burn down buildings or stand in front of masked men with your hands up in the air. Just stop participating. Withdraw. Anyway, this is Tom Kane. This is the Executive's Playbook. And I'm so grateful to everybody that's been watching the show. And I hope that for those of you who haven't yet, please hit the sub button. Please hit the like button. Please give me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you have any thoughts, hit the notification bell so you know when I drop a video. And thank you. Thank you guys for watching, for participating. Remember, you empower any system you participate in, and you empower anyone you give attention. So whatever messages you agree with, that's where your time should be invested. And on that note, you guys have a lovely night.